Then next, our sister Dot.
Hi, my name is Dot Ikurego Achiru. I am a high-profile project manager here in the UK. I manage projects for the public sector. I am also a survivor of domestic violence, and I talk a lot about domestic violence, red flags, how to identify it, and what to do when you come out of it. So I have a platform called Talk2Dot, and I also have a community club called You Are Not Alone, which helps women in the UK escape domestic violence and then point them in the right direction to find help.
Give these ladies their chance because they've got their own, some have got their own stories, as you heard. Some are saying they've experienced. But I've experienced on my way in advocating, people who come in and trust me, I have nothing against church. I have nothing against tradition. But sometimes when it's not done the right way, it puts people in danger. But as I said, I'm not going to be the main speaker. So today we're going to start with somebody who's never been part of our speakers. We're going to give the floor to you, my sister Dot.
Thank you. In terms of domestic violence, I mean, it's something that's happening every day. People are going through it. I say in my videos when I give talks, I say domestic violence is a pandemic. Because if you look around, it's happening everywhere. It's just that there's not enough awareness. A lot of people want to shy away from it. Your friends, your family, they don't want to. You hear things like when it comes to relationship matters, they don't want to be involved. It's like a stigma. Some people act like if you are a victim of domestic violence, you have a virus. They don't want to touch you. They don't want to come near. They want to act like they're not a part of it. So it happens all the time. And there's a lot of awareness now, and there's a buzz on social media because of the gospel singer that has just died, Osinachi. And people talk about it a lot. And as said, Osinachi is a face that is representing all the thousands of cases of people that have died in church, of people that are still sat down there in church, and no one is paying attention to it. Like you said earlier, it's not like we're here to criticize religion or tradition and all that, but let's understand that coming from the religious point of view, where I come from a very religious point of view, Christian, born again and all that, the way it is, like most churches, most pastors will not come out to name and shame domestic violence because of this scripture that they put forward, which is called God hates divorce, because of all the scriptures around separation. And besides, it's not, I think for the church, it's not a testimony to say that marriages are falling apart. So they'd rather avoid it. Now, in terms of personality types and people that find themselves in domestic violence and abusive relationship, I see things that people say, oh, it's poor men that abuse people because they don't have money. But the ex-wife or ex-girlfriend of a very big man in Nigeria called FFK has just come out with pictures and videos. She was being abused. Now, he's rich, he's handsome. So you can see that it's not about someone's financial status or qualifications or, what they have. It's down to the personality type. In terms of a victim of abuse, you hear things like women empower yourself so that you have your own money. If you have your own money, you can get away. If someone has money, if you're from an exposed family, but I also say it's not about how much money you have, because we have celebrities that are going through domestic violence and they're stuck there. So it's not about that. Now, using myself as an example, when I got into a relationship and got married, I worked in the city of London as a senior project manager. I earned £350 a day. I had traveled to several countries. I had a master's degree. I come from a very good family where everyone is enlightened, but I found myself in an abusive relationship and I stayed there for 8 years. So as you can see, it is not about not having money, not being exposed, not being this, not being that. It's the personality. And I tell women a lot of times, like, don't beat yourself up too much because you fell victim to domestic violence. These abusers have had years and years of practice. They don't just come to somebody and they just say, okay, we got you. They test people. They look for people who are empathetic. They look for people that would rather solve a problem than talk about it. They look for people that would rather want to save the world than, they look for those kind of first people and they test you out. Once you check into that profile, they know, fine, this is a victim. At work, people said, yes, boss to me. That's my project manager. I tell them what to do. At home, I was being told what to do. I earned £350 a day, but I was being given the money that I should spend for lunch. I was being given an allowance of £10, my own money. This is me. The ex. You understand? I was being told what to do. So when people say it's difficult to explain, people don't understand.
Financial abuse.
Yes, they don't understand what it means. It's even a victim of abuse. It is difficult to even understand what is happening to you. So that's why I don't really blame people a lot when they don't understand what's going on. And that's why I always like to put myself out there, because people know me, they know who I am, they know what I've done and what I've achieved. So if I put myself out there and say, look at my face, I'm the face of domestic violence. It's not about being poor. It's not about not being enlightened or not being educated. It's not about not being spiritual. Because come on, think about it. I've been spiritual. I've played music in church. I've preached. I've gone to Bible college. I've laid hands on people. I've been right there in church and being abused. I've been right there in church in front of a pastor laying hands on me for job, for health. Meanwhile, I was just beaten in the house before I went to church. And they didn't see it. I remember telling a pastor saying, do you know what? I stood in your church, right? And I was being abused. I cried all the way to your church and you didn't see. Don't tell me about Holy Spirit. You understand? Because they were being funny, like, oh, you should pray more. I'm like, don't tell me about prayers. Because I've been there. Didn't you see it? You know, even when they saw it physically. And that is the thing about religion that really, really puts me off. Like, even the pastors that were there, even the pastors that saw it, they stood right in front of me after I had left and said, we're not aware of it. And I'm like, have you got partial amnesia or something? Because I'm quite a very outspoken person. Well, now, because I'm free, I'm quite outspoken. I can't stand people lying in front of me. If I have to dig in to pull out the evidence, I'll do that. And I said to the person, did this person not shout at you and insult you? Did this person not stop praise worship several times in your church? Did this person not punch a person in the church and got kicked out of the church? How can you sit there and tell me you are not aware that there was violence in the home? And they do this because it's a kind of stigma to the church. Imagine if a pastor came out and said, if you are going through an abusive relationship, stand up and I need you to walk out of that home. I bet you half of the women in the church will walk out. So they can't do that. And this is the problem. But it is a problem. And that's why I urge women, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to find that inner strength. The same amount of energy and strength you use to stomach and endure the abuse, you can use the same amount of energy and strength to pick yourself up and get out of there. Because the truth is, no one is going to pick you up. Your friends will notice that you've changed. I mean, I heard people saying, oh, we just thought it was marriage and that you just became quiet. You no longer post on Facebook anymore. You don't, I mean, freaking heck, for 7 years I was married. People didn't even know I had a child. 2 children. The pictures were never anywhere. No, you didn't know, exactly. You didn't see the children anywhere. All of this were, and people did not notice that this is not, I'm the kind of person, like, I'm on a plane going to America. I'm like, hey guys on Facebook, I'm on the plane, I'm going to America. I will document everything. But then all of a sudden, they were not seeing anything about my life and it didn't occur. On the flip side, if people stop being active, I'll be the first person to say, hey, what's up? Are you all right? So that's the thing. There needs to be awareness for women that this is not the way to be treated and they need to get strength and come out. There needs to be awareness as well for families and friends. When you see a change in a way a person that you've known has always been, don't just assume that it's relationship. They're fine. We won't get involved. They're just all loved up now. Because if a person got a job and they stop talking to you, you'd call them and say, what's going on? You just got this job. You don't talk to anybody anymore. If a person moved house or changed schools and they just cut off from everybody, people will say, are you all right? You just started school and you don't talk to anybody anymore. But then when it comes to relationship, I kid you not, even if you disappear from the face of the earth, no one is going to ask. It's like they just, I don't want to talk about it. Like people even heard voice notes. Like a lot of times I put it on speakerphone and they heard fighting and screaming and all that. And their response was you guys need to just take it easy and pray about it, as opposed to being alarmed. So this is the thing. There needs to be awareness. Like, do we have to wait till the person dies before we now get, because this girl Osinachi, like people keep saying, oh, you need to stop talking about this. But I'm like, what are you talking about? This is exactly my life. This is my life. And that's why I'm very passionate about it. The difference between me and Osinachi and all the other women that have died is that I got out. And I was lucky to get out. I literally would have died there. But do we wait for people to die before we start talking about it? When we've seen the signs, we've seen it. This girl was in an abusive relationship for nearly 15 years. Her son is 12 years old and he cannot read. And nobody picked up on that. I have a son. Until the day I left that house in 2019, up until 2019, he can't talk, he can't do anything. Literally, I was feeding this boy, spoon feeding him until he was 6 years old. I walk out of an abusive relationship. He feeds himself, he talks, he doesn't have accidents anymore in school. He's now rated as one of the most intelligent boys in schools. He's winning awards all the time. What did I do? I walked out of a toxic environment. That is the impact on children. When I left the school, the teachers were crying. They said, how did we not see it? Exactly. All the therapies failed. Every single thing failed. What did I do? I walked out. And that's the same thing I tell women as well. Do not stay for your children. Leave for your children. You have to get out of there for your children, because the trauma involved in raising a child in a violent place, in a place where, as a woman, you carrying that pregnancy is not happy, is enough to destroy that child's life, potentially forever. Yeah. So why keep them there? Bring them out. You understand? Start by getting separated and then take it from there and see what happens.
Exactly. Woo.
Sorry, I get very passionate about this thing.
No, and trust me, I'm
remembering everything. Everything.
I know, but as I said, before I say anything, anybody who's going to be affected about this, we're going to share some numbers, and you can speak to me as well. I don't know if you can, but you can speak to us as well, because I know this is not easy. I've known this lady. First time I knew her, she was with the person. I never knew that Dot had children. I never seen their children until when we spoke, because when I actually went to her, because she was loud enough about the Osinachi thing, and then that's when I said, Doc, you know what, I just seen that we need to talk, and said, yes, so. And you know, for somebody to open up, she's not doing it for anyone, she's doing it for all of us. Because we are not going to cut corners, we are not going to try and say, oh, we are trying not to say the church or the what. They felt, as she's saying now, if the children couldn't speak because of the abuse. But there are some people who say, I'm staying for my children. What we don't realize is when you stay, you abuse that child yourself, because the child couldn't speak for a while. And now Sister Osinachi, they said it's cancer. The church damaged her children. I'm sorry to say, because that church was a sanctuary where she went there for advice, but they were giving her ill advice. And I said again, I am not against the church, but you know what, Dot? Thank you so much for sharing your story. And yes, I can hear people saying in the chat, thank you so much for sharing your story. It takes guts to share and speak about it. But you are sharing because you are helping other people.